Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to UFCW Local 770's General Membership Meeting for the fourth quarter of 2023. I'm going to do a little bit of introductions, and then I will actually do them again probably while we're waiting for folks to get on. Right now it's just 6:59, so we opened this up a minute early. Oh, now my clock says 7. So welcome again, everybody, to UFCW Local 770's General Membership Meeting for the fourth quarter of 2023, the last meeting of the year. I'm going to introduce everyone, and then we'll explain interpretation for those who want to hear the meeting in Spanish, and then we will get started. So we have here with us tonight Mara Cruz Cesena, our organizing director, Danny Garcia, secretary treasurer. Oh, I'm Kathy Finn, by the way. I'm the president. I should introduce myself first. We have Ron Solano, union rep for the Kaiser division. We have Eric Ramos, who's leading up our packing house division. We have Matt O'Malley, our director of collective bargaining and research. And we have our new communications director. I'm really happy to introduce. She has an extensive background working for communications with other unions previously, as well as other nonprofit organizations. She was previously with the Carpenters Union. And we're super excited to have her. She's only been with us a week, but I will just say I'm going to talk a little bit later about our strategic planning process and our meetings with members, where members said that communication was one of the most important things that they, one of the most important things that the union does is communicate. So Heather is our new communications director, and you'll get to hear from her later. And then we also have doing some technical assistance, Paula Smith, Maya Barron, Miranda Ngani, and Colin Messakar. And then we have interpreters. Ernesto and Leticia are our interpreters for tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to Ernesto real quick to explain the interpretation so that folks who want to hear the meeting in Spanish can do so. Oh, I forgot to say Nam Le, our political director. Sorry about that.
Is that good? Hi, thank you, Kathy. Well, thank you. This meeting will be interpreting into Spanish and English. If there's any comments in Spanish, we will be glad to interpret those into English for you. Simply select the English channel when it pops up. If you're on a computer, you're going to see a little globe like this at the bottom. And if you click it, it'll give you English or Spanish. So if you understand English, Spanish, or both, please click on the language that you prefer so everybody can communicate. And if you're on a phone, you may not see the little globe. You'll see three little dots that once you click on those, then it'll give you an option to select the language. And once you have selected the language, then you have a button that you need to confirm. So it's 3 steps on the phone. First, the 3 dots, then select the language, and finally, on the corner, one of the corners on your phone, it'll ask you to confirm. And I'm going to say that, but in Spanish now. Bienvenidos, la reunión estará siendo interpretada al español y al inglés. Por favor, si están usando una computadora, por favor ubiquen el globito que se aparece en la parte de abajo de la computadora, seleccionan ese botón y luego pueden seleccionar el inglés o el español, cual prefiera usted. En un teléfono será un poquito diferente, son 3 puntos. Primero, después se selecciona el idioma y por último se confirma tocando el botón de la esquina para confirmar. Igual, repito que en la computadora, en el teléfono son 3 pasos, que es 3 puntos, seleccionar el idioma y por último el botón para confirmar. Gracias.
Okay, so everybody select. I have to go into the English channel. So hang on 1 second while I do mine. Oh, I don't see it yet. So somebody's got to turn on the interpretation.
It just popped up, Kathy. Should be popping up now.
Okay. Oh, now I have it. Yay. Okay, I'm selecting English. Okay, so hopefully everyone can hear me. If anybody has an issue, you can raise your hand and somebody will try to help you. But hopefully all the English speakers at least can hear me now, and the Spanish speakers are hearing what I'm saying in Spanish. So again, I'm just going to say welcome. This is the UFCW Local 770 General Membership Meeting for the fourth quarter, the last general membership meeting of 2023. And tonight we were going to be doing some reports. Each department or division is going to give a brief report to report on the accomplishments of 2023 as well as plans for next year. And then we'll do the business of the meeting, which is, approving the minutes and the financial reports, and then we will get to member questions. There is you can either put questions in the chat, or if you have questions there, and we'll get to them, or there is a question and answer box that you can put a question in, and those questions may be answered live, or somebody could type you an answer to the question, and I believe that everybody on the call can see those questions and answers once they're entered. If you're on a phone rather than on a Zoom, if you called in to this meeting rather than being on the Zoom, in order to raise your hand to speak, you need to press *6, and then when we call on you, you press *9 to unmute. And others, if you're on the Zoom and you want to ask your question live, you can just raise your hand and we'll call on you. So there are multiple ways to ask questions when we get there. Before we get started, I'm just going to ask everyone to please put your name, the company you work for, and the city where you work in the chat, so that we can see everyone who's on. Not everyone has their name, their pictures can't be seen because this is a webinar rather than a Zoom. But if you can put your name, the company where you work, and the city where you work, then we'll know who's joining. Okay, so we're going to get going with the department and division reports. And I'm first going to turn it over to Mara Cruz, the Director of Organizing.
Hey, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. It's really nice to be here with you all. For our organizing department, I have a few things to report on. So in addition to doing a lot of internal organizing this year, making sure that we're building up leadership structures and making sure that we're going to be in really strong positions for our upcoming contracts, our organizing department took on a couple of other projects, including La Colombe. Many of you might have heard, especially some of you that might be on the executive board, that there is a company that a lot of you might actually be stocking in your grocery stores. If you haven't seen it, take a look in the fridge aisle and maybe in the grocery aisle. La Colombe is a company that is based out of Philadelphia. And this is a project that started with the International. We had organizing that was really inspired by the Starbucks workers campaign, and a lot of the organizing that we've seen happening, a lot of the strikes that we've seen happening. We had workers organize in the DC area, and then very quickly were followed by workers in Chicago, and then here in Los Angeles. So locally in LA, we have 2 shops that we represent. We have a Silver Lake and a Century City location. There is also a Frogtown and a Beverly Hills location that have not yet joined, but are welcome to be part of this conversation. Workers at these shops are fighting to make improvements, have guaranteed protections on the job. And as with many first contract organizing, they're having a really hard time at the table, actually. We see it at Starbucks, but we're seeing similar things here at La Colombe, where management is negotiating pretty slowly, but workers are steadfast in their commitment to this fight and in their commitment to themselves and to organize for better conditions. And so they are sticking together. They are putting up with some unfair labor practice conditions, including having management surveil them and have been able to stick through it all in this campaign. So we might be calling on you in the next year to come out and support. Come out to some of the shops and participate in sip-ins where you come in and show some union love to the baristas at these stores. And we wanted to make sure that you all knew about that and what's happening at those stores. And then the other big project that's heading our way in a big and fast way is we've got to really do something about CVS, right? And so coming out of the Steward Conference, we had a big conversation with a lot of the CVS members there about how CVS in our 770 jurisdiction, right, from like the San Pedro area all the way up to San Luis Obispo, has a lot of non-union stores that really affect our ability or your ability to fight back at the bargaining table. And so given that we're about 6.5 months or so out from expiration of the CVS contract, talking to non-union workers and making sure that non-union workers are part of your fight is a huge deal. And so coming out of the Steward Conference, we actually had a group of workers from CVS volunteer and say that they want to be part of a volunteer organizing committee there to make sure that we are able to engage and include the non-union workers at CVS as part of the larger fight so that CVS can't use that to divide workers against each other. I will say that if anyone here on this call is a member at CVS and you're interested in building up more power there and making sure that CVS can't use non-union workers against you in bargaining, we're interested in talking to you. We want to make sure that we can plug you into this fight. You can either put your name in the chat, let us know in the chat that you're interested, or make sure to go ahead and send an email to organizing@ufcw770.org. Angela, Ms. Brooks, I see you. You were actually, really happy to see that you're putting in the chat that you are interested. You're absolutely one of the names that we have from the volunteers. So we'll be in contact with you soon. But if you all want to join Angela in this process, we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to stand together for this. And so again, the big things is we have some coffee shop organizing that's tapping into some of this national conversation that's happening. And also we're getting ready. We're getting ready for CVS and to take it on in a real way. So again, continue to put your information in the chat if you're interested, and we'll be reaching out. And again, I'll include this in the chat, but if you want to reach out separately, you can email organizing@ufcw770.org. To keep everyone in the loop. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it too, Ms. Brooks. So we'll be chatting with all of you soon. And there's a lot of fun organizing and really exciting organizing that's happening with us, or actually with CVS and La Colombe. We also have some really exciting stuff that's been coming out of our cannabis division. So I'm going to hand it over to Matt O'Malley to go over that with us. Nice to see everyone.
Thanks, Mara Cruz, and good evening, everybody. I'm Matt O'Malley. I'm the Union's Director of Research and Collective Bargaining. So first, I wanted to start with a little bit of a kind of year-end review of what we've been doing in the research department. And the main focus in 2023 has really been on the Kroger and Albertsons proposed merger. We have kind of a unique challenge in that although as unions, we have access to a lot of information about the companies and the workforces. Because of the way that we're structured, right, a lot of that information tends to get siloed within each individual local union. So although we know a lot about 770, we don't know necessarily what's happening outside of our jurisdiction. And of course, this Kroger-Albertsons merger it's national, right? So it affects all the states, all of the locals. So very early on in the process, even before our international union had taken a position on the merger, we formed a coalition with a number of other local unions. In particular, in California, locals 5 and 324, in addition to us, 770. In Washington State, local 3000. In Colorado, local 7. And then in the east, around the DC and Virginia area, local 400. And so all of us have been working together, like researchers from all of the locals are collaborating on like weekly calls to share information and make sure that we're able to put together an analysis that's impactful that we can then use to really arm both the Federal Trade Commission as well as the state's attorney general with the best, most accurate information about the impacts of this merger. Now, the merger, of course, is still an open question in terms of whether it's going to be approved, on what terms it's going to be improved, if and where stores are going to be divested. So we've been really working very hard on trying to get out in front of that and have an analysis ready to go so that the moment the sort of, word drops and we know specifically which stores are sort of targeted for divestment there, we'll be able to go immediately to the FTC and to the state AGs with an analysis of what the impact of what that will be on those communities in addition to all of those workers. So besides that, on the research side, right, this is the first year that we've really kind of taken on the task and we're using Food 4 Less as sort of like our pilot case of trying to get a research program going that involves our rank and file membership. So I have to give kudos to my colleague, Albert Lowe, who has really kind of, taken this bull by the horns and started to build, an actual committee of rank and file Food 4 Less workers who are leaders in their stores, and then also now starting to lead a campaign to really give us some of the information that we'll be able to use to be able to move people in connection with our Food 4 Less fight. Moving over to the cannabis division, the cannabis division in 2023 has been going through quite a few growing pains. We're starting to see that sort of like retrenchment from the like original big bang of 2018 when Prop 64 first went into effect. And even though on the one hand, we've been having some tremendous success in organizing, in 2023, we have added 13 new shops under contract. At the same time, the membership has really not been growing in the ways that we had hoped it would, right? So just for example, when we first negotiated our first contract with MedMen back in 2019, that contract covered 6 dispensaries and over 300 workers. Those 6 dispensaries now employ about 80 people. So, and this is something that we're seeing, it's pervasive. It's not just MedMen, it's almost all of the companies in the industry. So while we've now grown to a total of 34 shops under contract, we're only at about 500 members, right? Whereas if, the industry had continued to grow at the same scale that it was at 2018, that number would be much closer to about 1,700. So it's frustrating, but we have to do what we have to do, right? I'm very proud of the work that's been happening there. Winning first contracts from employers, as Mark Cruz alluded to, is incredibly difficult. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of hard work. So having said that, right, we have also organized 5 delivery depots. We're starting to sort of move away from just brick and mortar dispensaries and focus in on some of the other sectors of the industry. One of those, of course, is retail delivery. So thanks to the amazing work of the organizers in the cannabis division, we won 5 of 6, if you count the one in Local 324, 6 straight NLRB certification elections for a company called Ease. And we have been engaged in bargaining for a first contract with them since about, I want to say September of this year. We've made progress on the non-economics, but we just introduced our economic proposal to Ease the last time we met with them right after Thanksgiving, and then sort of sat back and watched the blood rush out of the company's negotiators' faces when they sort of wrapped their head around what it was we were asking for. They were screaming like, if we do this, our costs will go up 17%, right? Which frankly doesn't sound like that much to me. And, our response to them was that the costs are going up because we're starting from a baseline of the minimum wage, which is just completely unacceptable and intolerable for the people that are out there working on that. So in addition to, the work that we've done, we've also brought in 2 new organizers to the division. Robert Salazar and Alex Zelliff Grant have joined our team, in the fourth quarter of 2023. So we're staffed up, and we're ready to sort of keep this ball rolling in 2024. And we appreciate everyone's support and patience as we do this. Right, organizing a new industry is very difficult, and it's a very labor-intensive job. So with that, I will pass the baton over to my esteemed colleague, Nam Lay, our union's political director, who's going to update us on what the union's been up to in politics.
Thank you, Matt. Tough act to follow. Great work, great updates. I know that was just a summary of the work that you and your team been working on. So kudos to you guys. Good evening, everyone, sisters and brothers. It's my privilege to present to you our year-end report, the political and legislative report. Truly, I'm doing this report on behalf of all the members and all the leaders, all the rank and file folks who spent this entire year and last several years working on several big campaigns legislatively. I'm going to do a short summary of some of our victories, but really a big shout out to all the members that participated over the last 5 years on one particular campaign. We have a new law. It took 5 years, but we won. And let me tell you a little bit of the law. It's called the Los Angeles Fair Workweek Ordinance. It was effective April of this year. It's a significant achievement for approximately 70,000 retail and grocery workers in LA. It was championed by Local 770, your union, Lane, and community allies. This ordinance aims to provide workers predominantly from communities of color with improved work schedule predictability, stability, and flexibility. Why is that important? We hear all the time, those are the needs of retail workers, the challenges of scheduling. And I'm proud to report we joined a long list of cities that already have this law in the books. But here's the benefit of kind of joining the party a little late. We took the best pieces of fair scheduling from the cities of San Francisco, Emeryville, Berkeley, Seattle, New York City, Philadelphia, Chicago, the state of Oregon. And we took the best pieces of those laws and we put it together for California, specifically for LA. We start in LA. Why? Our hope is this will travel across the state. Other cities have it, but we need to improve it. The new law is a result of a 5-year campaign, as I mentioned. It addresses the issue of unpredictable work week faced by 77% of LA retail workers, significantly impacting their ability to manage family, education, and other commitments. I think all of you on this call can relate to that. I'll just break down the law real quick. It includes 14-day advance notice of work schedules, compensation for last-minute schedule changes, the right to decline extra hours on short notice. They're really important. You have the right to say no in the city of LA, mandatory rest periods, and the provision of good faith estimate of work hours. So that's the city of LA. It took us 5 years. We joined all those cities, and we're gonna hopefully we can take this law on the road. We want to make sure it's implemented. If you need more information, please go to our website. Please contact us. That's the city of LA. I'll do a quick summary of legislation that we were able to get signed by the governor in the state of this year. So some key legislation that the governor signed that bolsters working rights and safety includes AB 647 for grocery worker job protection, AB 853 requiring pre-merger notification for grocery and drug retail companies. Really important. If there is a future merger, they have to notify the Attorney General. The Attorney General asked us for more powers. We fought for this, so we want to be prepared. We're fighting this merger, but we got to be ready for future mergers. The next one is SB 553 for workplace violence prevention, something that hits all of us right now in the stores and retail. We want to make sure that employers are taking this seriously. They're logging the incidents. More importantly, it's a first step into addressing workplace violence. The next one is SB 616, increasing paid sick days from 3 days to 5 days. We wanted 7, but we'll keep fighting. AB 1286, it's for pharmacy safety, and AB 1171 regarding cannabis industry. Now, I gave you a quick summary of all of our legislation. Obviously, these are the things that we worked on this year. There are other things that we did not get signed this year that will continue next year. But I want to do a quick extension of gratitude to all of our members, our leadership, our staff, our coalition partners for their tireless efforts in advocating for our issues and our members. Stay up to date with us as we continue to advocate for positive change and confront the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. 2024 is around the corner. Look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.
Thanks, Nam.
I'm sorry, I'm
Uh,
supposed to introduce Eric Ramos from Packing House. I was taking a breath. So Eric Ramos, Packing House, year-end report. Thank you.
Thank you, Nam. And thank you, and good evening, everybody. So as Nam said, I will give the end of the year report for the Packing House. And I'll pretty much illustrate what the Packing House industry has done over this year of 2023, right? Some victories, and pretty much fighting, getting stronger, getting together to fight back, right? So in this year, in August 7, 2023, members from Overhill Farms, Rogers Poultry, and Palisades Ranch took part in the annual UFCW International Food Processing, Packing, and Manufacturing Division held in Omaha, Nebraska. Members got the opportunity to interact with other packing house members from other states and exchange ideas, goals inside their respective plants, right? This works so that members from California meet members from Omaha, from Idaho, from other packing plants, so that they could, interact with each other and share ideas so that they could better fight, their employers when it comes to contract negotiation times, right? In one of the packing plants, Palisades Ranch, after many years of waiting an extra year to attain their vacation milestone, as per the CBA, members were able to reach a settlement agreement with a company where they automatically will get their vacations as they hit a milestone rather than waiting an extra year, something that they were doing for a very long time. Anyone that was affected and who hit a milestone going back to 4 years, which is 2019, will receive 1 week of retro pay that equals a little bit more than 22,500 when you put everybody that was affected. That is money that we were able to win for our members and put in their pockets, especially after this year around where the holidays come around. Rogers Poultry members continue to build power and get ready for the contract campaign that they will negotiate in 2026. Darling Ingredients members are getting together to begin the contract fight that will begin in September of 2024. Baker Commodities members here at Baker's are continuing to stay strong as the company is still not running 100% capacity after the AQMD shut them down on October of 2022. So that's something that our members took a big hit, but they're staying strong, like I said. Our Overhill members continue to come together and build power as their change in management in 2021 proved to be a tough one. They're building strength so that they can come together in 2025 for the contract campaign. Our Pontralin Larica members are standing strong as they're preparing to negotiate their contract in this coming year, 2024. And lastly, despite officially closing its stores in June of 2023, reach an agreement with our now ex-members. We reached an agreement for our now ex-members that were on leave of absence due to workers' compensations or other personal reasons for more than 24 months. They will receive their severance package. So as part of the closure, we were able to negotiate a severance package and a retention bonus, right? But for some reason, the company did not want to give this severance package for those members that were out for more than 12 months. But members fought back, they got together, and we were able to come to an agreement that now they extended to 24 months. So this settlement affected about 19 workers and compensated them a little bit more than $95,000. So, this pretty much demonstrates that when workers come together, they unite and they fight back, they can win. So now I will go ahead and pass it along to my colleague and Kaiser representative, Ron Solano. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Good evening, everyone. So I'll be giving the year-end report for Kaiser Division. So my name is Ron Solano. I'm one of the Kaiser reps. So this year, the Kaiser Division, which includes Cindy McGinnis and Mercedes Medrano, we've been working very hard and diligently this year. At the beginning of this year, our members were able to enjoy and have their life balance days benefit that were unused to be rolled over to their vacations that in previous years were half paid and the time was lost, which is a benefit that we were able to negotiate on the last round of negotiations. And so that this year, they were able to roll over to their vacations. Also, our stewards were able to attend an annual Kaiser Alliance Leadership Conference in San Diego, where they were able to be trained on unit-based teams, racial justice, and psychological safety. And throughout the year, we also had an opportunity for our members to have the chance to meet our new leadership at the listening sessions. Our stewards were also introduced to the different constituency groups at the annual SoCal Stewards Conference. And lastly, we want to recognize our Kaiser Executive Board member and steward Hector Chidas for successfully completing the SPUR program and helping the organizing department in the drug campaign. And for the upcoming year, looking forward to 2024, we want to continue to engage our members and prepare them for 2025 as our contract is coming up. We're planning for our Alliance Leadership Conference in April and also to have more of our stewards conferences, and looking forward to engaging more of our members and beginning on having contract action teams and starting the process there and having more members participate in solidarity actions. And with that, I am turning my time to Danny Garcia, who will be giving the retail field report.
Thank you, Ron, and good evening to everyone. So just to share back about the field, a quick recap for the year. Our reps have been extremely busy all year, but a focus at the beginning of the year was to prepare for two of the major campaigns that we would be driving this year with 3 employers. And so since the start of the year, it was to focus on having conversations with our stewards or leaders to reiterate to those stewards and leaders the importance of upcoming negotiations, right? And the need to organize their coworkers. Our Food for Less campaign started off with one-on-one conversation with selected stewards, selected leaders, and there were actually house visits involved. And since then, they've had 3 in-person meetings. They've also just recently had a stewards leaders training seminar, and now in their campaign, their leaders, their stewards have been able to actually work on mapping their stores. They've been targeting specific coworkers to add additional leaders to their contract action team, and they're also preparing to not only help stop the merger right against Kroger and Albertsons, because Food for Less is owned by Kroger, but they're also preparing as they're going to get ready for their contract that expires in the summer of 24. The other campaign we have is our drugstore campaign that includes both CVS and Rite Aid. And our reps have been in the field talking to, again, their stewards, their leaders, about the importance of solidarity as they prepare for their upcoming negotiations. And in the drugstore campaign, we've had 2 Zoom meetings. It's a little bit harder to have them in person because of how spread out 770 district is. But so they've been able to be 2 Zoom meetings with leaders. And also we just recently had a in-person shop steward seminar with them. And so here, folks are preparing for what might be the toughest fight for them yet, because Rite Aid is actually going through, just filed a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and CVS continues to open up non-union stores surrounding our union stores. So our members know that, through action and high member participation is going to be the only way that they'll be able to achieve what any gains that they want to see made in the summer of 2024 when their contract expires. I also want to share that we had Spurs this year for 2023 in the retail, and our Spurs first day was actually on May Day. So when they started, They started, hitting the ground. They were part of the May Day action. They were, out there making noise, being loud, representing all of 770. They were also working both campaigns, both the Food for Less and drug campaign, and they were able to help build the foundation of the leadership structure that we're building with our stewards and with our leaders. They were also able to participate in the California Labor Fed 3-day training. So they got to do some door-to-door, some house visits, and some card checks there. So it was really exciting for them. But the Spurs also participated in the hot labor summer, which they got to just do so many different things. Like some of them got to participate and support Macy's workers in Seattle as they were on strike. Got to support our schools with UTLA SEIU 99 strike. They also were part of the UPS practice strike, Kaiser strike, SAG-AFTRA, and WGA strike. They also had participated in Stop the Merger informational picket lines, and they attended our lobby day. So our Spurs now, we look forward that they take back all these new skills and tools and are able to help develop more leaders back in their place of work. So with that said, I want to now pass it over to our communications department, and it'll be the report will be given by our new director, Heather.
Thank you, Danny. Hey, everybody. I'm really excited to be with you all tonight. As Kathy mentioned, I was the communications director for the Western Regional Council of Carpenters Union, and I'm also a longtime union member. So I'm only about a week into the job, and I want to really commend the comms team, some of whom are on this call, for all the hard work they've done this year. So instead of doing a report, I really wanted to share my vision and some of the goals that we're developing for the department moving forward, which is to build an inclusive member-centered communication strategy that really amplifies members' voices and engages members where they are. So I'm really excited to work with you all in doing that for 770. So now I'm going to turn it over to our president, Kathy Finn.
Thanks, Heather. And we are very, really excited to see what comes out of the comms department. And I agree, the comms department has really held it together this year and done a lot of amazing work, particularly communicating around the Kroger Albertsons merger that, Matt talked a lot about, but really everything's been getting out to the members and to the public. Based on the really hard work of the comms team all year long. And I'm really excited to see what comes out of that department next year. I was going to talk a little bit about the Kroger merger. I'm just going to give a little bit of an update. Matt already talked a bit about it, but we do have a meeting this Thursday, actually, with some members are going to be able to show up and testify with our Attorney General of the state of California, Rob Bonta, to talk about their concerns about the merger. And we've had several other meetings around the country, some of which were attended by the FTC and the chairperson of the FTC, Lena Khan. So we have spent the year really, as Matt said, collecting crucial data, working together with other unions and getting this information to the important folks who have the ability to stop the merger, or at least file a suit to attempt to stop the merger. If they do file that lawsuit, obviously they have not come out and said what they're going to do yet. They're still in the process of reviewing it. But if they do file a lawsuit to stop the merger, there will be litigation, and ultimately it will be decided, by a judge. But I just want to say the members, the numbers of members who have come out to actions, of various kinds that we've had, as well as to testify. Some have traveled to DC to testify, some have traveled to Colorado, and then some are going to be testifying this week on Thursday to stop the merger. And it's their voices that are really making a difference in the outcome. Danny mentioned the work on the Rite Aid bankruptcy, so I'm not going to talk about that. One important thing that we did do this year is we attended the international convention, the UFCW International Convention, which happens once every 5 years. And that is our once in 5 year opportunity to make changes to the international constitution and then our bylaws. So we took a delegation of almost all members, rank and file members who were elected to be the delegates to that convention, elected by the membership. And it was really amazing, I think, for the first time, and I've been going to these conventions, you know, for as long as I've been here, 25 years or so. This was the first time we had a lot of members speaking from the floor on really crucial issues. I know somebody put a question in the chat. I actually, because I'm on an iPad, I couldn't see the question, but I've been told that somebody had a question in the chat about one member, one vote. That is something that our delegation supported at the convention. Unfortunately, it was voted down, by the delegates from other locals. We also supported a number of reform efforts, one of which to make, the delegations at the convention more equal. Currently, large locals are underrepresented when compared to small locals. We also pushed for strike pay to start on day one if there's a strike, rather than having a week of waiting before you get your first check. That one actually got passed in a compromise form. But anyway, there were many things that we were pushing for at the convention. And so I think it was a very proud moment this year. And I think just harkens back to all the reports we heard. I just think 2023 has been an amazing year in how much was accomplished just when listening to all the reports. And I think the theme that brings them all together is how much the members have stood up on all the legislation that was passed. It was members' testimony. It was members pushing, particularly for the safety bill, the workplace violence prevention bill. Members have been very vocal about what's been happening. And it was members who, sent thousands of texts to the governor that got the governor to sign that. With the growth of the cannabis division, those members are sitting at the bargaining table, getting those contracts done. In everything that everyone's reported upon, it's really the members that have been fighting for these things. And we know that the more power the members have, the more justice, the more fairness, the more we can accomplish at work. So one thing I just want to mention, as I said, every 5 years when we have an international convention, there are changes to the international constitution, which require changes to our bylaws. So I just want to remind folks that there is a vote tomorrow to update our bylaws. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I'll explain it completely tomorrow evening. Those meetings are in person because there has to be a vote and a vote count. And there's a lot of documents that need to be shared that would not have made a Zoom a useful place to share that information. Finally, before we get to the business of the meeting, I do want to talk a little bit about one of the really important things that we did this year, which was embark on creating a strategic plan and vision for Local 770. So I think many folks, probably many who are on this call, attended at one time during the year a member listening session where Danny and I and some, other reps and directors came out and we actually had, I believe it was 24 separate meetings all over the jurisdiction to meet members in person and hear their concerns. We took all that. We also had a retreat with our executive board and a retreat with our staff. And we took all that information together and created a strategic plan this year. And we came up really with kind of 4 strategic priorities, which we are going to be working towards and implementing in 2024. So we did complete the whole plan. We will next year be sharing it out more broadly with the members. But I just wanted to share with you now kind of the 4 pillars that we're working on. One is member power. So this is something we've talked a lot about, and that, you know, the power to make change is really with the members, and we have to make sure we have a union that empowers the members and where it's members' voices that are heard. The second one is growth and organizing. So we need to spend more resources to grow our union. Obviously, if we don't grow, we die. You know, so we have to definitely be growing our union. And so we, in addition to the 2 organizers that Matt mentioned in cannabis, we hired also 2 other organizers, Spencer Wilson and Mario Gonzalez, who have joined our organizing department to help with the work of continuing to organize and bring in new members. Another pillar is connection to the community and other social, racial, and economic justice organizations and fights. We know that it's not just our union, as we saw this summer with Hot Labor Summer. There is activity going on everywhere to achieve more fairness and more justice for working people. We have to be part of that larger movement. We can't just, you know, be isolated and siloed as Local 770. So that's something we're going to be working on. And the 4th thing is an accountable, efficient, effective, financially sustainable union. So we have to make sure that we are, you know, are transparent with the members. Honesty and transparency is crucial to have a member empowered union, and that, you know, we're using our resources effectively, and that we're creating an organization that's financially sustainable into the future. So those, just a quick recap. We are going to be coming out again to the members to share the report in all of its detail. But that is, you know, some of the stuff we worked on in 2023, and I'm really looking forward and very excited about 2024 and actually implementing this plan, you know, and, you know, ensuring that we are the member empowered, you know, transparent, accountable union that we dream of. Next, we have to do the business of the union. I'm not sure. I know Danny actually has been sick, and I know he has a bit of a sore voice. Do you want to go ahead and do this part, Danny?
Yeah, I'll give it a try. I mean, if it sounds awful, then just cut me.
You sound fine to me, but I know that
promise.
you're having a voice.
Yeah.
But anyway,
no.
I'm going to turn it over to Danny for to do the business of the meeting, and then we will get to questions in just a few moments.
Okay, thank you. So for this part, we're gonna be having poll questions. So those who are on Zoom, you'll be able to vote, but unfortunately for those that are calling in, you're not able to vote. There'll be, you know, for you to make a motion, we ask that you raise your hand. So the first question, poll question is gonna be approval of the minutes for September 12th. General membership meeting. So it's been the practice approved the waiving of the reading, listening of the minutes for the September 12th general membership meeting. Is there a motion?
If anybody wants to make the motion, they raise their hand. Raising your hand is your indication that you're making the motion. So if anybody could raise your hand so we can make the motion before we do the vote. Okay, we see one hand raised. That's the motion. We need a second. We need at least two hands raised before we can move forward. Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Okay. So as Danny said, those on the Zoom can vote. The poll question is going to come up and folks should vote to either approve the minutes, vote yes. Oh, I can't vote. I'm trying to vote, but I can't. But anyway, so vote yes to approve the minutes. And the minutes, just so people know, every meeting that we have on Zoom, if we're not in person, we do record it, and that recording is put on the website for everyone to be able to access and see for the next 3 months until we get to the next membership meeting. So it's been out there. So we can give people a minute or so to vote. I can't really tell if people are voting, but hopefully somebody can see it. Can folks see the poll?
We've had about 64% of attendees vote so far. So if you haven't voted yet, go ahead and click yes or no now. And we'll just give
Okay.
it a few more seconds.
Yeah.
Thanks, Colin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see some people are writing yes in the chat, which is, I think you got to vote on the poll. I'm not sure if you can see the poll. I see people writing yes in the chat, but anyway, let's close the poll and somebody share the results.
It passed with a 98% approval.
Awesome, thank you. I'm never going to do another one of these meetings on an iPad instead of a laptop. It really doesn't work very well.
All right, so next is the trustees report, January 1st, 2023 through July 31st, 2023. Okay, beginning balance, January 1st, 21,874,753. Revenue and expenses from operation, revenue subtotal, 12,473,168. Expenses, cash disbursements, subtotal expenses, 13,497,292. Reimbursement due from trust funds, 350,980. Income deficit, 673,145. Ending balance as of July 31st, 2023, 21,201,608. Cash activities, cash balance as of January 1st, 2,397,025. Cash receipts, subtotal for cash receipts, 19,289,792. Cash disbursement, subtotal cash disbursement, 20,409,553. Net cash in and out, 1,119,762. Cash balance as of July 31st, 1,277,263. Balance sheet assets, total assets, 24,724,997. Liabilities, 3,523,388. Fund balance, July 31st, 2023, 21,201,608. Is there approval of the trustee report for July 2023?
We first need a motion. So again, before we can do a vote, we have to have a motion and a second. So, if you want to indicate your wanting to make a motion, you can raise your hand.
Looks like we have a motion from Eric Benson and a second from Kathleen Scott.
Okay, great. Thank you, Colin. So we got a motion and a second, so can we put up the poll for people to vote? Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All those who want to approve of the trustees report, please indicate by voting yes on the poll. We'll give folks a little bit of time. So if you want to approve the trustees report, click yes. Okay,
Looks like we're steady with 55 yeses at 96%.
okay, great. Let's close the poll and we'll do the final one. Thanks, Paula. And then you want to do the last one, Danny? Oh, where did Danny go?
I think he lost his connection.
Okay, we lost Danny, so I'll do it. I'll do the final one. The final one is the
Hey,
investment.
okay. I'm so
you're
sorry.
back?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
my
okay. Okay,
connection.
you're back. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, investments, valuations, and transactions for August 1st, 2023 through August 31st of 2023. Fair market value as of 8/31 and fair market value and other investments total 15,422,773. Interest and dividends income total 34,246. Sales and principal pay downs, realized gain 42,231. Total 481,843. Purchase common stock total 222,291. Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the investment transaction report for the month of August?
It looks like we have a motion by Micah Avino and a second by Darlene and Zunza, who are the first ones to raise their hand.
Okay, great. Thank you, Colin. Okay, let's put up the poll. It's been moved and seconded. Let's put up the poll. There you go. Approval of the investment transaction report. We'll give folks 20 seconds or so to vote.
Looks like the poll stopped with 52 yeses at 98%.
Okay, great. Thank you, Paula.
50,
Okay, so it's
54.
okay, great. So let's close the poll.
Okay, the monthly membership report for November. In the food division, 18,917. We lost 44 members there. Drug division, 4,609. That's down 20 members. General sales broke even. Professionals, 1,525. That's a gain of 8. Barber beauty broke even. Meat cutters, 1,639. We're down 1. Meat packer, 441. We're down 2. Cannabis, 487. That's a gain of 4 for a total of 27,635 members. Currently, there are 1,324 members on withdrawal due to leave of absence. And that's the report.
Yeah, that one doesn't need to be, that one's just an FYI for everybody's information, the number of members we have, that one does not need to have a motion. So that is the end of the business that we have to conduct here, so we can open it up to member questions. Unfortunately, because I'm on this iPad, I cannot see the questions. So someone else hopefully can see questions, see if somebody's raising their hand, call on folks, or call out the questions that are in the question box or the chat. And we'll try to answer as many as we can.
We don't have any questions in the Q&A, so.
Okay, so there's no questions in the Q&A. Let's see.
No one's raising their hands yet.
Okay, does anybody have any questions they want to ask? I know I did see somebody asked a question earlier in the chat about, I transferred from West LA to Carson. This is from Adelmira Mendoza from Kaiser. I transferred from West LA to Carson South Bay. I have the same Union 770 with my transfer. Do I have to do anything? I don't think so. I mean, Ron may say if there's something different in Kaiser, but I think as long as you're in a facility with the same union, I don't think you have to do anything other than make sure that your union rep knows.
Yeah, I will be transferring her from one location to that one, but it's the same union, so she'll be fine.
Okay, so Ron's going to take care of it for you. So there you go. Anybody else? Or if you don't have a question and you just want to share something, share any end of the year, something you want to share.
We have a question in the chat.
Lakeisha,
Okay.
yeah, Lakeisha,
I'm showing Elvis. Are there any plans to try and gain support with any populist politicians?
Gain support with populist politicians. You want to take that one now?
Yeah, I think the best way to address that, we look at politicians, elected officials, as an extension of advocates for working families. And we work very hard to vet candidates that meet our standards, that follow our values and our principles, that, protect and fight for working families. So I don't want to give a generic answer, but I want to give a focused answer. That's the type of candidates that we support, that we champion for, because they champion for workers and our values. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Nam. I actually can now see it. Wait, I figured out how to do it on the iPad. So I do see a question saying, can you explain how bumping rights work for potential merger and divestments? I can explain that. So that's a very good question. So if the merger goes through and there are divestitures to another company, and as folks who've been around at least since 2014 or 2015 remember, in the Albertsons Safeway merger, 85 stores were divested to a company named Hagen, and Hagen agreed that they were going to respect everybody's seniority, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So very few people exercised their right to bump. Most of the people went to Hagen, and then those stores closed. So, we don't know what's going to happen in this situation. I can't say it's going to be the same or it's not going to be the same, but, I caution people to be careful. What you do have the right to do, this is in our contracts. If you are in a store that is going to be divested, you have the right to stay with your current employer. And when the time comes, we will explain to everybody how you have to do it. You just have to, write something telling them that you're exercising your right under the contract to stay with your current employer. And then, depending on how many people exercise that right to stay with the current employer, they use your seniority to place you in those stores. So that would, if a whole lot of people do that, obviously not everyone can stay with their current employer. So some people are going to get laid off, the least senior people. In the Albertson Safeway merger, there were no layoffs because nobody bumped. Everybody who was in a store that went to Hagen, but then eventually 6 months later, all those people were laid off. So, it seems like this might be a similar situation. We don't have a lot of information. We've been requesting information from these companies about, their plans going forward. They have not been very forthcoming. with that information, so it's hard, to make an assessment right now, but, yeah, I would be pretty, concerned about, about CNS because it appears to be very, very similar to the Hagen situation. But thank you for that question. That was a very good question. Then I see Lakeisha Hilton from Pavilions 229. I was at that store, a week ago. Is it possible to have more permanent security in the store for safety for customers and employees? I would say, excellent question, Lakeisha, and I'm sorry about what happened at your store. I was there on that Friday. Just for everybody else's information, there was a shooting at Lakeisha's store, not this past Friday, but the Friday before, so just about 10 days ago, where a shoplifter, a security guard, this store does actually have a contracted security guard, but there was a couple of people shoplifting, and the security guard was kind of aggressive with them, and they got angry and went to their car and got a gun and came back in the store and shot the security guard in the leg. Thankfully, none of our members were injured, but I know it was very, very, very scary. I came to the store. That store is very close to our office, so I went over there, and I was there probably about a half an hour after it happened, and I know people were very shaken up. It's a scary, scary, scary thing to hear gunshots in your store. Obviously, everybody's running and for cover. It's a very, very scary situation. And then Jessica, who also works in that store, I think just said it was actually an Albertsons employee who was that security guard. The company told me it was a subcontracted person, but Jessica probably knows. But in any case, yes, I mean, it is possible for the company to have more permanent security in the store. It's something that the company can decide to do, and we can certainly put pressure on the company to do that. I do think, Sam, the union rep, has been out at that store a bunch, and I think we can, figure out how to, do a petition or something. I think we need to have a meeting out at that store with folks to try to figure out how we're going to put pressure on them to bring in more security. I think they also told me they put now a security camera in the parking lot or something, but I don't know really how that prevents, violence from happening. I will say, just going back to SB 553, the new workplace violence prevention bill, that NAM talked about, the really important thing about that bill is it does require every employer to have a workplace violence prevention plan. And in developing the plan, they do have to work with the workers and the union. So in addition to the the workplace safety language that we got in our contract in the last negotiation, which allows us to have a safety committee in every store, we will be working with the company on a store-by-store basis, with the workers who work in the store, who obviously are the ones who know the conditions in the store, to create, a safety plan for each store. And if that means more, every store is different. So if at one particular store, more security is what's needed, then that's what can be in the plan. And if at another store, it's, I think for a lot of the drugstores, not having only one person in the front of the store by themselves, which we actually put in the contract. But the company has not been following. So there are a lot of different options that we can talk about. And the one good thing is that the company is required to meet with us to talk about this. And then I think maybe Mara Cruz is putting another answer in the question and answer chat. Another question: is seniority based on time with the company, time with the union, or time in a specific job title? So actually, everybody has two seniority dates. Your first seniority date is your time in your, it's not your job title, but it's your job classification. So the amount of time you've been either a food clerk or a GM clerk or a meat cutter, or a meat clerk. So it's your time in the job classification. It's not necessarily the job title, because for instance, a dairy deli clerk is a food clerk, but a produce clerk is also a food clerk. So if you were a deli clerk and then you moved to produce, all that time counts towards food clerk time. And then if you were let's say you were a courtesy clerk and then you were a GM clerk, and then you became a food clerk, all of that time is your company seniority. So even if, like, as an example, let's say you just got promoted to food clerk recently, you just became a checker, a few months ago, and you had, you only had a few months as a food clerk, but you spent a lot of time before that in the service deli as a GM clerk. If you don't have enough seniority to keep your job as a food clerk, you can bump back, what's called bumping back, into your former classification if you had a lot of seniority there. So potentially you could bump back to GM clerk, or you could bump back even to courtesy clerk to keep your job. So that's how seniority works. And I don't see any more questions. Oh, I did want to talk before we go, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the vote tomorrow. So just a reminder to everybody that there is a vote to approve the bylaws, the new bylaws tomorrow. So just so folks know, the changes to the bylaws are really very, very minor, and they're really pretty much required by what happened at the International Constitution. We are also trying to make our bylaws more in line with the UFCW International Model bylaws, because the International is requiring us to do that before they sign off on them. So there's a lot of things in the bylaws that have moved around. So there are many, many, many things that, for example, it was in, Article 7, Section 1, it got moved to Article 9, Section 8. That's just an example, but lots of things got moved around. But the actual substantial changes to the bylaws, they're not really substantial, they're very small. But the actual changes, which are very minor, are just a few. But it is important that we get people to come out, because we do need to get these bylaws passed, so that we have active bylaws that we can then distribute, out to people so everybody can understand them. So that's important. If you bring your yellow card, you'll be able to get in quicker. Those who don't bring a yellow card have to fill out a blue card, and then get checked for your eligibility to vote. So it does help if folks bring their yellow card. It makes the process much faster. You can go to, the vote's going to be happening at 5 different locations, starting at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. LA, Camarillo, Santa Clarita, Santa Barbara, and Arroyo Grande, all will be open. They will be having a Zoom meeting at each location, which will be connected. So all 5 of the locations where the vote is happening are going to be connected to the LA office, where I will be explaining the changes to the bylaws. So whatever meeting you go to, you'll be able to ask questions, and I will be there. Let's see.
There was before the Q&A, there was the question, maybe if you give an update, Kathy, on the Gelson's arbitration.
Yes, I am so glad somebody asked this question, because we last night got the decision on the Gelson's arbitration. So just to give a little bit of history, when we reached the contract back in April of 2022, there was one provision of our new contract which said that GM clerks, once they reached 8 years, would get an additional $1 added to their pay. And that was not going to be implemented in April. It was not going to be implemented until September. And because of that waiting period, everyone who was going to get that dollar in September was also going to get $500. Gelson's, for, I don't know, some reason, decided that that was only, it was not going to apply to people that were over scale, that extra dollar was only going to go to people who are at the minimum GM rate. And that is not what we agreed to. And so we were forced to go to arbitration. And ultimately, the arbitrator agreed with us 100% and has awarded back pay, both the $500 and any back pay since September of 2022. That everyone, whether they were above scale or at scale, who was a GM and had at least 8 years of service, was entitled to that money. And so the company is going to have to pay that to all the GM clerks who did not get that. So we are now going to be working on getting the list and ensuring that everybody gets that pay. So yes, that's very good news for the Gelson's members. And thank you. I do again want to say, you know, it was members who brought this to our attention. It was members who fought very hard, actually, to try to close the wage gap between GM clerks and food clerks. And, you know, there's still more of that gap that needs to be closed. I think the GM pay rate is still, you know, significantly lower than the food clerk scale. So that's something we have to continue fighting for. But appreciate all the members, all the workers who stood up for this, you know, important change, and then who brought it to our attention that the company had not implemented it as we had agreed. And then there's another question from Art. With the fast food wage increase in 2024, what are you doing to work with the companies to incentivize new workers to join our industry? Oh, it looks like Mara Cruz is typing an answer, but you know, I just wanted to clarify what this fast food wage increase is. So SEIU, who is working with the fast food workers in an organizing campaign, you know, reached an agreement that fast food workers would get $20 an hour. But just so folks understand, those fast food workers still don't have a union yet. They're in the process of, you know, working to create a fast food union, but currently they don't have one. So they don't have the health benefits that our members have. They don't have the pension that our members have. I do know, I agree with Art's point that many workers getting their first job don't think about healthcare. They don't think about pension. They're just looking at the bottom line of how much they're going to earn. And so the fast food industry is going to attract some young workers. But what folks have to understand, one difference in the unionized grocery industry is that for every hour you work, somewhere around $5 to $6, around $6 or higher than $6 an hour, is going into to pay for the healthcare and the pension plan. So I do think also that, you know, with the contracts coming up, the Food for Less contract, the drugs contracts next year, and the major food contract in 2025, we do have the opportunity. We do have the opportunity to, you know, fight again for higher wages. And so a lot of it has to do with us standing up and fighting for what is a fair wage in the grocery industry. And then Kathleen's question is, are we trying to bring fast food workers into the UFCW family? Right now, we do not have, other than for fast food workers who work inside our stores, if there are any fast food, you know, like Panda Express or those things inside of our stores. But in terms of fast food workers at like McDonald's, the freestanding ones, we do not currently have a campaign there. It is a campaign that SEIU has been working on for many years since the Fight for 15. Let's see, we've got one more question from Ryan. Let me see. I have employees working in higher classification and supposed to be clocking over. Is there a requirement to get a promotion into the actual position? Oh, Danny says Danny's typing the answer, but I'll also just give a quick answer on this one. So there is language in the contract that allows a certain number, but a limited number of hours to be worked in a higher classification. And that was originally created to allow people to get some experience before they get an actual promotion into the position. What is really, really important, though, is that people do clock over and get that credit. First of all, because they get a higher rate of pay when they're working in a higher classification, and so that we can track the hours. Because if they're not clocking over, then there's no way for us to know that they have worked those hours. And it's very important that that those hours are tracked for a couple of reasons, because if the person is promoted in the future, they're going to get credit for those hours, and that means faster time to get to the top rate. And there's only because each week there's a limited number of hours they're allowed to work in the higher classification, that's the only way we can track is if people are keeping or clocking over to track those hours. So it's super important if you know in your store of folks that are not clocking over, and that's in a Vons or a Pavilion store, they have to clock over. In a Ralph's, you have to fill out a maintenance form, or in a Food for Less, you have to fill out a maintenance form. But it's like crucial for a number of reasons, as I said, that people track those hours. So everyone who's working in more than one classification needs to be making sure they're tracking hours. And for those of folks who are stewards or activists in your store, you should just make sure that the others in your store are consistently filling those things out and tracking their hours. Let's see. Okay, so it looks like that's all the questions we have. So it was really great to see so many people on the call. I think we had over 100 folks. People were coming in and out, but we had over 100 folks on the call. Great participation. I'm really excited to work with each and every one of you in the new year. I hope everybody has happy holidays. And here's to a great, exciting 2024. Night, everybody. And
Thanks,
see you
everyone.
tomorrow at the vote. See you tomorrow at the bylaws vote. Don't forget, we want you.
Thanks, everyone.